So we're holding here in the Gemara Mesechta Megillah, Daf Chaf Zayin Amid Aleph 27a. It's closer to the bottom of the page. We're holding now is concluding a discussion we had back and forth. If a Sefer Torah was sold with the agreement of all the elders of the city in a place where it's allowed to be sold with such a condition, what can it be sold for? So the Gemara brought down, Shafilu l'duchsisa nami mutter. It can be sold even for a duchsisa. Duchsisya. What is a duchsisya? That's what we're holding now in the Gemara. So if you have a shul in a small village or a small shibul, not paid for by communal funds, not very visited by many people, what can it be used? What can it be sold for? Even duchsisya. So says the Gemara, what is duchsisya? Abaya asked a certain one of the rabbis, Mi shmielei mai loch merav sheshes mai duchsisya. Have you heard from Rav Sheshes what is duchsisya? What is it that when you sell a shul or you sell even a Sefer Torah, but with the agreement of all the people of the city, the needs can be used for duchsisya? Amar Lei told him, Hachi Amar Rav Sheshes. This is what Rav Sheshes says. Parsha de Masa. It is, Parsha means, like you have in the Megillah, Parashim. Parashim are like horsemen who are soldiers, watchmen, servants, all at the same time. They were sort of like the National Guard as opposed to active duty military. And their job was to go around and to serve everyone or serve the dignitaries of the city. Rashi in Mesechta Baba Basra says the Parsha Masa is more of a sentry of the city, someone who goes around protecting the city. So just turn this around, just show everybody some pictures if the screen is not working. But for example, here's some old Pittsburgh trolleys, right?
You can see. Basically for the public, something for the
public, right? One of these old I think I'll just move to right over there.
The trolley, that's Volkswagen. That's in his Voschke.
What?
In his Voschke.
Right, there's some old Pittsburgh trolleys.
Oh, that is trolley.
These ones. Recognized areas. Allies to me. Right?
Yeah, there's a trolley and a streetcar.
Remember that back in the day?
From Brooklyn.
All right, this is a famous horseman, a famous drawing by Zalman Kleinman. As you see, here's called the Chassidische Balagala, a Chassidische wagon driver. He's taking the Chassidim with him to Lubavitch. And even the wagon driver is now busy listening, fabreging, and the horse is going by itself. The horse is going in the air. The Chassidim are above the world. And if you look closely, they're saying L'chaim. And down on the ground, there's Ivan. He's also saying L'chaim. And he's laying in the filth among the chickens. And here, the Chassidim are saying L'chaim, going to the Rebbe, and they're floating in the air. Right? It's a famous painting, the idea of, these are just, I draw a few, I put in Jewish horsemen. This is on the way to the ghetto. So Jewish horsemen in time of World War I. And this would be a Parsha de Masa, to be like the king's guard. Someone who's there to guard the city, to watch the city. So that's what it means, a Parsha, Parasha de Masa.
Which one are you
in our school? Let me see. 27 verse 4. I'll be on the right page, I'll be.
27.
A4.
A.
Second paragraph.
Okay.
Amar Abaya says Abaya, Hilkach therefore, Hide Sorba, the Rabbanon, you have a young sage, Dishamale Milsa, he's still young, he's still in training, and he heard something, Veyaddata Pirusha, and he does not know what it means, he should ask his question to someone else who is sitting commonly, frequently before the Chacham and before the sages. Because if someone who's sitting so frequently in front of the great sages must have heard the explanation or the meaning of what he said. And what he said, and what he's teaching us is, because obviously if you don't know, ask. What he's adding on over here is that you don't have to be worried or concerned that the person you're asking is going to be embarrassed, is going to not know the answer. If someone is sitting so long in front of the Chachamim, you could assume that they know the answer to the question. Let's get into the next topic. Can you force someone to give tzedakah? What happens if the person is just visiting town, and unfortunately, he gets caught at a time when everyone in the town is obligated to give tzedakah? Now, nowadays, in American culture, it doesn't work too well. Like they used to have a kehillah type of structure back in Europe, where the kehillah was very powerful. Kehillah, and many times was even given power by the government to run the affairs of the Jewish people. They used to, they would register who was born, who passed away. Many times they would take care of taxes, or they were given a certain amount of money to collect by the government, and then they would have to take care of the rest. The kehillah had a certain amount of power. They had their own jail system. They had their own hospitality system. Nowadays, there is no power per se to the kehillah. It's more of a power in the government. We don't have that much really in America. But it used to be that the kehillah and the administrators of the city had ultimate power, or very strong power over the city, and they could punish or they could confiscate property. Amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum Reb Meir, says Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Reb Meir, b'nei ha'ir shachol ir acheres. If people of one city came to visit another city, the people of Cleveland came to visit Pittsburgh, and upasku aleim tzedakah. And when they were in the city, so they were charity collectors. People go around collecting money. I brought up some examples of that. Right, so let's say this is just an example. In Warsaw, you had a kehillah. Right, this is 1894. This is the board of the community. Can't see. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Facing the wrong way. Okay, it's too much light over there. But at any rate, right? So the people, that's a board in Warsaw. So they were able to have a lot of power over the kehillah. Here is the Gabbai Tzedakah. This is actually, I think, in the morning. They used to go around the shamish to wake up everyone to go to shul. Instead of getting phone calls, he would go take his hammer and knock on everyone's window panes. It's a real picture.
I was up and down the alleys at Empire Boulevard.
Yeah, he used to go. So it happened also over here in Karnitz.
It was the Vecker.
The Vecker.
Oh, the waker.
Yes, he would be the one obligated to wake everybody up. So the Gabbai Tzedakah, those who collect tzedakah of the city.
But you know, Gemara, you always give out snuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the 250 every day.
Rabbi, I have a quick question on that. The Asya, what was the merit you could sell a Torah? What gave that, the horse driver, such like kavana to,
So it's, for example, if they sold an old Sefer Torah and they bought a new Sefer Torah with that money, and there was some leftover money.
Okay.
So it's not selling the Torah in order to do it. It's like what they would do with leftover money, or if they sold the Sefer Torah to a place which will use a Torah. But the people of the city, if it was an individual, they said they cannot use the money for communal needs because they're an individual, can only be used for another Sefer Torah. But if it's a public who sold it and the board of the city and it was done officially, not behind anyone's back, so then what could that money even be used for? And they said it could be even used even for dechsusia, for another communal need.
Okay.
So there was a mas hakol, a tax of the community. They tried doing such a thing in Crown Heights when they made in the late 80s. They made a vadakol, a community board, and there was no way to enforce it, and they're never successful in everyone paying mas hakol. I think then it was $100. Now they want, I think, $400 a year from every community member. It's not like membership to a shul; it's just membership to a community. But you don't have the ability to do that really. The Rebbe never really utilized. The Rebbe never said every chassid has to give this amount of money at this time. Rebbe announced many, many, many times on many farbrengens, a magbis, collections, but there was no head count. You have to give this amount. You have to give that amount. There are certain other circles where they, wanted to build a huge shul and bells and satmarim and they made every single person have to give a certain amount. But such a system isn't really around so strongly today, where you have a whole board of a kehillah very strongly in charge of a kehillah. But they were able to assess every person in the community and say how much tzedakah you have to give. And you're able to either take it, they tell them you have to give this amount, or they would enforce it, either take it by force, or they would punish them or penalize them. He had these people from one city, from Pinsk, ended up in Dvinsk. And while they're in Dvinsk, there was a charity collection going on. And even though it's not the original, even though it's not the city where these Pinskites live, they're just there visiting. But now they were told to give tzedakah. Noisnin is sort of like, when you go to Canada and you pay provincial tax. Noisnin, you give that money. They have to pay that money to the place where they went to, in order that people should not say, hey, they're wheezing out. They're not giving tzedakah like everyone else is giving tzedakah. And when they return to their city, they could go, when they are going to return to their city, they're able to go back to the Gabbai tzedakah and say, this was a tax for your city. This is a tax for the city of Dvinsk, and I paid it, so it shouldn't look like I'm, not wanting to take part of it. However, I want the money back. I want to be refunded, and that money I'll give to poor people in the city of Pinsk, where I came from. Sort of when you leave Canada and go over the border, they have what's called, I haven't done it in a while, you could get a refund for all your GPT, I think it's called, provincial tax that you paid.
You can do that in Israel also, yeah?
I don't know.
I think so.
When you leave the country, you take your receipts and you take your product that you brought with you. I remember a friend of mine was going and he says, I bought a pair of pants. And here's a receipt. He says, you have the product? He says, I'm wearing it. He said, it doesn't work like that. You have to have it with the tags on it. So when they leave the city, they could go back to the Gabbai tzedakah of the city and demand the money back. And they could take that money and to support those people who are poor in their own city. There are a few qualifications to this. It's not in every single situation. It's specifically if there is a unique tax that was given, not a tax that's on a regular ongoing basis. For example, everyone in the city has to give every month $50, 50 rubles towards the community tzedakah fund. So these people who are visiting could sort of weasel out of it. Because I'm going to give $50 to the tzedakah fund of my city. But if it's a time where it's a fast or is a type of calamity going on, where at that point, everybody would give extra tzedakah, and they would say, everybody, this is a time of, it's a time of difficulty, a time of extreme desperate time calls for desperate measures, and everyone has to give now an extra $100 for tzedakah. So even these visitors have to give that extra $100 to tzedakah, because this is an extra tax is going to every single person. And so people are going to say, hey, these people are here for a week and they're not giving it, so they have to give it as well. But when they leave, they could get it back. However, when they get it back, they can't use that money to go and to spend it on their own needs. They have to spend it on tzedakah, but back in their own city, they have to spend it on tzedakah as well. Tanya Nami Hachi, Gemara comments, we have a brisa taught similarly. Previously, we taught in the name of Rebbe Meir, and when we say something in the name of Rebbe Meir, usually the halacha is not like him.
Oh.
Because, again, Rebbe Meir is usually Yechidah, Rebbe Meir was the most brilliant of all the Torah sages. Right? He was Rebbe Kiva's top Talmud, even greater than Shimon Bar Yochai in knowledge of Torah. And he was so above and beyond all of his peers. And Rebbe Kiva told him, be satisfied that only me and Hashem know your greatness. That's how far above and beyond he was over everybody else. Rebbe Meir. And therefore, halacha is most times not like him, not because he didn't know the svara, but because no one else can understand his svara. So if you have a Mishnah without any name, it's always according to Rebbe Meir. Whenever you have a Tanakama, the first opinion, which is not stated a name, it's usually Rebbe Meir, or the Chaim, all the sages who agree with Rebbe Meir. Whenever Rebbe Meir is quoted, halacha is not usually not like him. So the previous brisa, which stated this law was coming from Rebbe Meir. And now we're going to bring another brisa in order to finalize a halacha like this. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned a similar brisa as well. If you have the people of one city who traveled to another city, who pasku alein tzedakah, and the town officials tax them to give them money for tzedakah, then they have to give the money to tzedakah. And when they leave, they could get a refund and bring the money back with them. However, v'yachid, an individual, and there's discussion if individual means less than 10 people or less than 3 people, which went to another city and they estimated him that he should give a certain amount of tzedakah. You should give it to the poor people of the city where he's in, and he cannot get refunded when he leaves the city. The other understanding of this Gemara is that he could give the amount of tzedakah to the people of his own city, because in the city where he is, there's enough people to support the city. So let's just go through the halacha. What's halacha? If you go to another city, let's say Pittsburgh is a large city, and you have a lot of small towns which used to have Jewish communities. Carnegie, let's say, used to have a Jewish shul over there. Now there's no Jewish shul anymore. You have 1 or 2 elderly people still living there. It might keep up some type of Jewish infrastructure. But for Yiskar, they come into the big city, and then they pledge tzedakah, right? You say Yiskar, and you say Bavor Shayitain, and they pledge, I'm going to give a certain amount of money to tzedakah. How much money, where does that money go to? Does it go to the shul where they are pledging the tzedakah to, where they made the mishaberach to give the tzedakah? Or does it go to their own shul in their own small city where they only have a minyan, let's say several times a year or something like that? So let's go just through the halachas. If you're in a city and everyone in the city is assessed to give tzedakah. So you have in some small cities, for example, let's say a city like a New Square or KJ, Kiryas Yoel. So there it's more in a similar to Kehila style. Maybe now it's getting very large and it's not that like that anymore. But they could be told that everyone in the city has to pay a certain amount towards communal projects or communal funds per year. So now I'm not part of that community, but I just go there and I live there. Right? So could they say you have to give this amount of tzedakah? Let's say I'm there temporarily. right? People will come to Pittsburgh and they live here for a month or two because they have to have a medical reason or some other reasons. So if they come to that city, there's two types of tzedakah. There's a tzedakah which is an ongoing tzedakah, and then there's tzedakah which is a tzedakah which happens from time to time. If there's something severe going on, if something, they used to have to do it a lot of times to bribe government officials and things like that. And that would happen a lot in Russia and Germany. And then they would have to make an emergency collection, pidyon shvuyim, and then they would assess every person should give this amount. So if he's an individual, and we're going to go first individual and then a rabbim, many people. If he's an individual going to the city, you have to give to the city where you are temporarily, even if you're there only on a temporary basis. If you got an aliyah in shul, you pledge money to the shul, you have to give the money to that shul. You can't give the money to your shul back home. If you said, let's say by Yiska or something, that you're going to just give tzedakah, you can give tzedakah to your shul back home. People of the city are allowed to have rules that everyone has to have haknasas archim, everyone has to do bikr cholim, everyone has to give tzedakah to the communal funds. You are allowed to make rules like that in a city. Now, if a large contingent of a city went to visit or went to another city for a while, and then in the new city, there's a drought, there's a decree, and everyone is davening, Torah, tefillah, tzedakah, davening, right? We do every day. We give tzedakah, we say Tehillim, and we learn Torah every day. And now we have visitors coming to the city. They have to join with that city, and they have to daven with them. If they're fasting, they have to fast together with them as well. Tzedakah with them as well. If they're returning to their own city, able to ask for their money back. Now we're going to add another qualification in the Gemara based on an anecdote on a story. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna gazar tanesa. So near the very bottom of the page. Rav Huna, one time in the city where he lived, now Rav Huna, for this story, it's important to keep note that he was a gadol hadar. He was a great person of the generation. Second to last line on the bottom of the page. Rav Huna gazar tanesa. Rav Huna, he one time decreed a fast in the city for one of the calamities, floodwater, drought of rain. And when he made a fast, all the areas in the smaller cities and areas around him joined the fast. And they all came to the big city to join the tefillas, the prayers on the fast day. One of the people who came to join was Rav Chana bar Chanilai. Rav Chana, the son of Chanilai. We know from Mesechta Brachas, which I think one of you made a siyum recently, Mesechta Brachas. Near the end of Mesechta Brachas, we say about Rav Chanilai, about Rav Chana bar Chanilai, how he gave a lot of tzedakah. Major Baal Tzedakah. And because of that, since he was such a great Baal Tzedakah, he had a very great schus, a very great merit. And since in the city of Rav Huna, there was some type of calamity going on, so Rav Chana bar Chanilai came to the city of Rav Huna in order that he should join them, because perhaps the schus of all of his tzedakah will help their tefillas, their prayers should be accepted. So the Rav Chana bar Chanilai, he was a very big Baal Tzedakah, and his entire V'chol b'nei Masei, and once he comes, everybody comes, right? So imagine, the Chaim Sofer comes from Pittsburgh and he comes to another city, he brings with him the people of the city. The Ramu Layu Tzedakah, and being as it was a fast day, everybody had to give a certain amount of tzedakah. It's called Igra de Tanisa. Igra de Tanisa is a tzedakah you give on a fast day. It's one of the things that we're very meticulous about on a fast day, is a day of tzedakah, tshuva and tzedakah. And so Rav Chana bar Chanilai, tremendous amounts of tzedakah in his own city. And the people who came to join him, the rabbim, the large crowd who came to join him, they were also given this, or they were assessed. They also were told to give the tzedakah together with everyone in the city. V'yavu, and they were told, I hope everyone could still hear and see. V'yavu, everyone was told to give tzedakah, and they gave the tzedakah in order that they shouldn't fall under suspicion that they don't want to give tzedakah. Kibo l'meisei. Now Rav Chana Bar Chanilai is ready to go back to his own city together with his whole group that came with him. Amrulei, and they told Rav Huna, Nois v'lan mar, v'nezel, refund us. Time to give us our money back. We're leaving the city. We're a big group that came. Give us our money back. V'nezel unefarnes ba niye masin. And we will support the poor people in our own city with the money that we gave to you at stuck in this city. And we only gave it to you, not because we're from the city, just that it shouldn't look like we're not commiserating with the people of the city. Amar Lahud, Rav Huna told them back to them, refunds don't come back so fast. Tanina, I have a brisa which says, when could the people of the city who gave the tzedakah demand their money back? Turning the page to Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis 27b. When there is no chaver ir is the town scholar, meaning someone who's on the level of either a gadol hadar, a great man of the generation, or a gabbai tzedakah who no one has ever suspected of taking any money for themselves. Someone of stellar character. That's what a chaver usually is. Our program on Tuesday nights is called Smichas Chaver. Smicha of people of stellar character. So if there is no chaver ir, if there's no Torah scholar who is of a stellar character who is involving himself with the needs of the city. Sometimes you have a very great Torah scholar, but he doesn't get involved in helping the poor people. Sometimes you have someone who's involved in with poor people, but they're not such a great Torah scholar. Sometimes you have one of those two people, but they're not people of tremendous character. But if you have someone like that, which is me, Rav Huna says, so then you don't have to refund the money. Aval yesham chaver ir, tinasan lechaver ir. But if there is a chaver ir, if there is someone of such stellar character in that city, then the money could be given to him, and he decides what to do with it as he sees fit. Because when you're giving money to such a great person, you trust him. Now imagine giving money to, I don't know, let's say the Rebbe. Are you going to ask for the money back when you're leaving the city, or you trust he'll do what's best with the money? So Rav Huna is saying, if you're giving money to me, you're giving it knowing that I'm going to do what's best. And the Koshakain, and here's the kicker that he throws in. Not just that, but you're in a city which is nearby the city of Rav Huna, and I give out tzedakah to my city, but I also give out tzedakah to the people in your city as well. So therefore, when you gave me the money to give to tzedakah, a lot of the money is going to go back to the poor people of your city. No need to worry that your money is gone and you're not getting it back. So the last halacha, Paskin, what's the halacha over here, is if there is in the city a Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, who is on the level of a chaver ir, he's a gabbai tzedakah. He's involved in everything that goes on in the city, and he's a tremendous Torah scholar. And you gave him the money. It's not covered at Torah. It's not honorable to the Torah to go back and demand money back from him. Now, even if the group which gave the money, even if that group has among them a tremendous Torah scholar, let's say someone like Rav Chana Bar Chanina, right? Chanilai. Even if the group which donated the money has a tremendous Torah scholar, still they cannot demand the money back from the Torah scholar who they gave it to, because there's no suspicion that the money is going to any place which is not proper. And this is specifically for money which they would not have given in their city. Money like for a tragedy or for a one-time thing. But if there is, let's say, money for the ongoing communal needs that they gave in the city, then they could demand it back. Because they say we have to give it to our city should not lose out. The Shach writes that if people in the small cities, small towns, who on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they come and they to the shuls in the larger towns and they pledge money for tzedakah, they don't have to give it to tzedakah in the larger towns. They don't have to give it to the Gabbai tzedakah of the big city. They could give it in their own cities when they come back. But if they bought an Aliyah or Hagberg Lila, so then they have to pay the money to the shul of that of the place where they davened. And also, let's say they would give the money to their own shul, so then this shul lost out. We had a guest come in, he bought an Aliyah, and he's not giving the money to the shul, they lost out. What's considered to be a rabbim, a large crowd? So the Achronim are not sure if it's 10 people or 3 people. Does it mean the majority of the city? And they also have to come from an established Jewish community to be considered that, meaning they have a tzedakah fund and so similar. But if they don't come from such a place, and if they don't come from such a place, so then all the money that they give has to go to the city where they arrive. So now we're holding at the Mishnah at the top of Chav Zayin Amud Beis. Remember yesterday we spoke about the Rebbe's father? No, the Rebbe's brother.
Brother, yeah.
Correct.
His youngest brother.
Not his youngest brother, right?
Yeah. Better brother.
His mother brother, right? Don't you remember better than I? I told you I'm going to look for his paper that he wrote. All right, so I just located it online. It's right over here. Here it is. If you look at it closer, this is written by M. Garari. He said Mark Garari.
Oh, yeah.
The location of eigenvalues, eigenvectors of complex matrices. I'm not even going to try understanding this. Eigenvectors, but it was interesting. This is the paper that the Rebbe gave to Professor Pinchas or Paul Rosenblum. You see over here at the bottom, it says at the time of Mark Garari's death, May 8th, 1952, he was in the Department of Theoretical Physics, University of Liverpool. We said that's why he ended up in Liverpool. Sent there by the government or whatever reason he ended up there. That's what it seems like. A manuscript in German of the above subject was found among his papers. We have prepared this paper from his manuscript, extended and simplified some results. He put the material in relation to other published works. The manuscript author refers to uniqueness theorem related to something, the analogs of integral equations. Unfortunately, they're apparently lost. The Rebbe's brother, when he wrote this, doesn't seem to have access to a library.
Oh.
But so he writes many things without putting a source. Like some of the other things were brought up by other big mathematicians of the day.
Ooh.
Now, we'll just skim through the rest of it if anybody can understand what any of this stuff means.
I didn't do enough math homework to be able to
Nope.
help.
But I realize mathematicians are paid for a reason.
You can see.
I'm not sure any of this stuff is. Just look at this.
Complex.
I'm not sure what this means.
Are you a mathematician?
I majored in math.
You majored in math. You understand what this means? I can send it to you.
It's simple. Context.
Yeah. What's the eigenvector or eigenvalue?
I don't know. It's a German word. I have no idea. I mean,
Actually, vector refers to in other words, like you're going here or you're going there, right?
Yeah.
As well as speed too. Others both are called no. Speed is just the absolute thing. Certain things I remember. I didn't do my math homework, so I failed math.
So anyway, very complex. Rebbe gave him, a problem that his brother had the mathematical, and he said it's so esoteric, I got it.
You knew Professor Rosenblum from Minnesota.
But he ended up working on it, but you get the answer, how long it took, or, remember?
Well, he published this in 1976. The Rebbe gave it to him in 1975.
Something called linear algebra. A couple of years, yeah.
What's interesting is if you look at the co-author at the top of the paper,
Yeah.
it says all the way at the top.
Let's see. Author
Communicated by
Oved Shisha,
You look at that.
an Israeli.
I don't know.
It's like a tablet. You can zoom in. With your fingers, you can pinch in the channel.
I know, would take 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, I can send it to you if you have some free time. You could look at it.
Good.
Yeah. And maybe one day you'll give us a class on this. Okay, so it's a link that you can find anywhere. You can find it online.
It looks like it, I mean, I'd like to look at it. It looks like it's above my pay level.
Well, I had actually done good in different extra topics like college and not doing homework. Thought I could do the same thing in math. It didn't work. Didn't do the homework in math. Failed math. But that's okay.
Let's go back.
I'm
So,
still here.
as we said, we have 5 minutes left. We'll continue with the Maimer, or at least introduction of the Maimer of Veyaddata Moskva. So I have the book, which divides it into 30 lessons. So the Maimer Veyaddata Moskva, it's called a groundbreaking Maimer. It's a Maimer from the Rebbe and Shab in the year of 1897. He said the Maimer when he was in Moscow, but he said this Maimer many times. I think he might have even said it before. It was written down. He wrote it down for the first time when he was in Moscow.
It was the Rebbe Rashab, right?
Rebbe Rashab.
Ah.
And it's counted among the Mamarim he would say from time to time in order to purify the ear. Every Rebbe had these Mamarim. It's more, now the Rebbe Rashab's Mamarim, he's called the Rambam Chassidus, explains very methodically in an orderly arranged manner, explains many ideas of Chassidus. Some of them are very complex, Ayin Beis and Samach Vav, I'm sure. And here he takes some deep concepts and he simplifies them. In the Maimer of Veyaddata Moskva, and in many yeshivas, and many people when they learn Chassidus, they start off learning the Maimer of Veyaddata Moskva just because it takes many of the deeper intellectual concepts that you're going to run into many areas, and it sort of brings it down into simple terms. The Maimer Veyaddata Moskva. It mainly focuses on the words of the pasuk Veyaddata. We say in Aleinu, Veyaddata hayom, you should know today. Vashavosel levavecha, you should take to heart. Ki Hashem hu Elokim, God is Elokim. Bashamayim mimal, in heavens above, V'al aretz mitachas, and in the earth below, Ein oid, there's nothing else but Him. So specifically it goes in the words, Ki Hashem hu Elokim, God is Elokim. What are you saying? God is God? And why use 2 different names? And so we know Hashem is the name of Havaya, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, and Elokim is spelled differently. And the name of Havaya is a higher name of Hashem. They're both names that cannot be erased, but the name of creation is Elokim. We say in Torah, Bereshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, Elokim created the world. The name Hashem has 7 names. The name of Elokim, the creation. We don't mention Hashem's name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which we call Hashem. We don't mention it till later on, after creation of the world is done. That's the first time we mention the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Later on, throughout the Torah, you mainly have the name Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Especially when Hashem speaks to Moshe, it says, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe. God spoke to Moshe. What's the difference of Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and since you cannot pronounce it, so we just rearrange the letters, and that's why you pronounce it as Havaya. Havaya means to create. Yud Kei Vav Kei comes from the word Hoiva. Hoiva means creation, the present. Like Dovi is very present, right?
Yes, indeed.
So Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is the name of Hashem, which is higher than creation. Hashem, which is constantly there. We're going to explain the three meanings of the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. One is Havaya, is in the lowest form is Lashon Mahava, creation of the world. One is Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is every 4 letters correspond to different spheres. Gone through that before. And then you have the highest level of Havaya is Shema Etzem, the name of the essence of Hashem. Elikim is the lower world. So we're going to go through the names of Havaya up to the highest part of Havaya, up to the highest part of Hashem. And then we're going to say a tremendous chiddush, that Havaya hu Elikim.
How can Hashem have a lower part, an upper part?
If Hashem is one, how could he have many parts?
When actually, like, a Paro could understand the concept of Elohim, but Yud Kei Vav Kei was a chiddush to him.
Correct. And so how could Hashem have many, many different parts? And the bigger question is, Ki Hashem hu Elokim. Hashem, which is the oneness of Hashem, is Elokim. Elokim is the gematria is 86 of the word Hateva, the word of Teva, nature, the nature. And so everything that looks separate from Hashem, you go out to the world and it doesn't look like it's Hashem. And that's Havaya, that's the oneness of Hashem. And that's the idea of the mimer. And to answer that, he first brings examples from within the way a person works. And he brings a few different examples. But one of them is when a teacher is teaching a student. So even if the student doesn't understand yet what the teacher is saying, but if the teacher understands it, given that the teacher understands it, then the student will be able to appreciate the teacher's knowledge. Now, if a student doesn't understand, it doesn't mean the teacher doesn't get it.
So we can't ever understand Hashem, so why are we working so hard
To do it.
to understand something we never can understand?
Because it's one of the mitzvahs of the Torah. Mitzvah is Veyaddata, you should know. You have to know this pasuk, right? Veyaddata hayom, you should know today. Ki Hashem Elokim, that Hashem is Elokim. Right? The mitzvah is tachlis hayediyah shleni dacha. The greatest knowledge is realizing we don't understand.
Oh, yeah, just like
For example, a plumber comes over to the house and he says, I have an issue with my plumbing. And he comes and he looks and looks and looks, and he leaves after an hour and he says, I don't know the problem. Bill $350. I could have told you the same thing and I would charge you $50. Why is a plumber charging you $350 saying, I don't know what the issue is, if I would have charged you $50 for the same answer? Why? Because he has more knowledge. The knowledge that he has, right, authorizes him to charge $350 to say, I don't know what the issue is.
Which is like the Rebbe says actually that we should try to understand Hashem in his first actually philosophy, thought and everything, but ultimately, if you can't even do that, we have at least believe in a tradition came from Har Sinai.
Correct. So the mitzvah is to understand Hashem as much as possible. Now, as much as we try, we could be as smart as a Rambam and as smart as Moshe Rabbeinu, and they realized how much more there is to understand. But the mitzvah is, if Hashem wanted perfect beings, he would have kept with the malachim. Hashem wants people who are keeping on trying to understand him, to bring awareness of Hashem. And we're going to do the mimer with Rabbi Vigler's inserts, which finds many different applications to the mimer, and also even takes this mimer and simplifies it, that even another person who has never learned Chassidus before could enjoy it and appreciate, hopefully, this mimer. So we'll continue with that tomorrow. But he applies it to many things, about even in the mimer, being honest in our business dealings, setting aside time for study of Torah, based on what this mimer says. Okay, so with this, we will pause for